Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with an absolutely fascinating series of pre-classical string quartets from 1757 by Franz Xaver Richter. Yes. Now, Richter was one of the Mannheim school of composers, and a very, very good one. He spent a lot of time in France. He wrote symphonies. He wrote a lot of church music. He was very, very interesting. He was a teacher, there's a reason I particularly enjoy these quartets. There are 7 of them in his Opus 5, although one of them is 5B, because they're not exactly sure like how it fits in there. I understood that Opus 5 always had 6 quartets, which is, of course, the normal number, but one may have been switched out at some point, so it's in here. Very nicely performed by the Casal Quartett, 2 T's, making them Deutsch, on period instruments by Jacobus Steiner, whatever that means, on the label Solo Musica, whatever that means. I mean, we're not talking about mass market productions here. But I also have the critical editions of these scores of these quartets, and I was looking at them because here's the reason, folks. Because Richter and his fellow Mannheimists, at least for some of them, were major vibratists. Yes, they indicated vibrato in their scores, all kinds of ways, in their orchestral scores and other scores. And I may talk about that in some of the papers I've written on the topic. But these quartets are just loaded with vibrato indications, tons of juicy vibrato indications, which demonstrate, once again, as if further proof were needed, that the period instrument people are full of crap when they talk about vibrato being only a solo ornament that was only used very occasionally. No! If you actually look at your treatises and compare them to actual scores that composers wrote, you will find, if they were that kind of composer, that is, if they were detailed in their markings, some were and some weren't, that vibrato was a very common occurrence. Here, for example, is the score. This is not the text. This is the our text, but it's close enough. They're all the same. I've looked at the manuscripts and all that. It's all the same. Let's see, the string quartet in A major, Opus 5, number 3. Now, this is from the second movement, which is an andante, a lovely little andante. And here, have a look at this. Now, do you see all these little wavy lines? The wavy lines are vibrato. Yes, that's what vibrato is. It's not a tremolo or a trill, because the trill, pardon me, there are trills like liberally sprinkled throughout this movement. Maybe there's one up. Here's one right there. See right there? The TR. He uses the old TR indication for trills. So wavy lines usually mean vibrato, or they can mean tremolo, like this thing. But in this case, it's definitely vibrato. There's not much question about it, but that's not all, because there are other indications to use vibrato that are also supported by contemporary sources. For example, this little sucker, tenuto on long notes. A tenuto on a long note means vibrato, along with hold, sustain it. You sustain it. One of the reasons you sustain it is so that you can make a nice, beautiful vibrato on it. And then we have dolce, which also indicates a sweet timbre. You have to sweeten the tone. And how do you sweeten the tone on a string instrument? You can bow in a certain suave way too, but it also helps to use a touch of vibrato. And look at these. Rinforzandos and sforzandos. Those are also indications that you should assist the production of the tone, the accent, by using a smush of vibrato. Now, the question then becomes, what kind? There was supposedly a bow vibrato back then, but nobody quite knows what that is. And there's also regular pitch vibrato, but pitch vibrato that could be quick, it could be slow, it could be audible, it could be inaudible, it could be, as Gemignani told us, just to make the tone beautiful, or it could be a real ornament where you're going wagga, 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 and you can really hear the variation in pitch, the trembling of the note. It's up to the players to determine what kind they want to use. But my point is, if it was only a solo ornament, that you would not see it marked as you do here, simultaneously in multiple parts. I mean, it's not solo at all, is it? It's just a textural, timbral thing. Anyway, so put these away and we can talk about the music more generally. That was just something that I wanted to point out because I think it's absolutely fascinating just how wrong the period instrument people are about this. And the nice thing about these performances is that the Casal Quartet has an attractive tone all by themselves, nicely in tune. Yes, that has that resonance quality that period instruments also have because of gut strings and, bows made of, whatever it's made of, something that they found dead lying at the side of the road. But they actually do the vibrato stuff where it's indicated on long notes, which is so important in slow tempos. So the performances, which are quite lively and lovely, utterly lack, thank God, that whining, the odious mewing of dying cats and things like that you often hear in period instrument performances of classical repertoire because, the period instrument people usually withhold vibrato exactly where every treatise of the period says you should use it, which means in slow tempos, in cantabile melodies, on long notes, because they want to sound different. In quick tempos, you don't hear vibrato anyway. It's too fast. It doesn't make any difference. But in slow tempos, oh my, that's where it's necessary. And fortunately, Richter was full of that sort of indication, and these performances are lovely. And if you want to hear some very interesting pre-Haydn quartets from, like I said, from the 1750s, these are fun. They really are. I mean, some of them end as minuets. Some of them, they're not in classical forms as Haydn later developed them. They have different numbers of movements. Let me tell you what they are, actually. Some of them have 3 movements. Some of them have 4. Some of them end with a fugue. One of them ends with a fugue, fugato, like Haydn was later to do in his Opus 20 quartets. They're really kind of fascinating. Some of them begin with slow movements. They're all over the place, formally speaking. But the Viennese quartet was in the works. And you can hear it very, very clearly in these wonderful pieces from 1757 by Franz, Xaver, Richter. Give them a shot on the Solo Musica label with the Casal Quartet. They do a lovely job in these rare and interesting pre-classical pieces. I think that it's just fascinating. Look, it's amazing what you can find when you A, listen, and B, actually look. Instead of just, mindlessly parroting the one treatise you happen to scraff up that you don't know that anybody ever looked at or paid attention to, and that you take as the generic policy for the entire period all over the world. I mean, it just, oh gosh, these people are just pathetic. And this proves them so. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.